Hi, and welcome to SCW Live here on YouTube. This is the first time ever, never done this before. Today, going to be a WrestleMania Q&A. Going to be starting off, though, with NXT Takeover and a couple of the breaking news on the wrestling topics today. And I'm joined by Jonesy Chats Wrestling as well. So lots to be involved with. I want you to get as many comments in as possible. Lots of questions. It's going to be a fun-filled show. And it's the first time I'm using this. So, yeah, this could be interesting. Could be an absolute car crash, but we're going to have fun. But without further ado, we're going to get George straight after this. Hi then, welcome back to SCW Live, and I'm joined by the one and only Jonesy Chats Wrestling. George, how are you doing on this Wednesday afternoon? Are you sleep deprived yet on WrestleMania week?
Yeah, getting there. It's great to be here. Thank you very much, Steve. Really looking forward to discussing it. Very exciting today on this WrestleMania week. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Like I say, it's literally open to everybody else to throw in their questions. So what we're going to do is we are going to start off by just touching on a few of the major wrestling topics, but we want your WrestleMania questions to come in the comments section. We'll give you a shout out and we'll answer those questions as in depth as possible as we can. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be a fun-filled stream for us here this Wednesday afternoon. But to start off with then, NXT TakeOver is this evening, stand and deliver. Of course, it's night one. Of course, the predictions are already on my channel if you haven't seen them already. Jonesy, I know you've done yours as well, but what are your thoughts going into NXT TakeOver? Are you looking forward to it this evening?
Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be probably the show of the year so far. I think they've done such a great job of building this up. I'm really, really excited. I'm just, I don't think I can sleep. I can't wait. Usually I won't watch a wrestling show live, but I might even watch it live tonight. I'm that excited.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I've kind of got that buzz with the idea of like Volta, Tommaso Ciampa, we'll get Io Shirai, Raquel Gonzalez. There's so many great matches that are lined up for this takeover. Like you say, it could be the show of the year already. It's proper exciting to see. Have you got a particular match that you're most excited to see?
I think on night one, it's got to be the women's title match, Io Shirai and Raquel Gonzalez. I think, that's going to be phenomenal. Such a mixture of styles. I think they've done a really good job of building it up. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. And for me, I think that's going to be the match as well. And I know people should really go and check out your predictions, but have you got a prediction for that match that you want to share with us here today?
Yeah, I think we're getting a new champion, Raquel Gonzalez. She'll follow up the good work she did at NXT War Games, where she got the pinfall on Io Shirai. I think she needs to win it. It's time to transition the belt. And I'm looking forward to a new champion, hopefully.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, I tell you what, we're going to go straight into the first comment here of the show. Noob & Co. Thank you, Noob, for checking out the video. And good morning, everyone, because, well, in your time zone, it's morning right now. And, yeah, great that you've actually started off your day checking out SCW. Really pleased to have you here. But also, there has been some breaking news as well, which you actually shared with me this morning, suggesting there's going to be a kickoff match for this evening. One of my newly favourite wrestlers, Zoe Starks, will be taking on one of my other favourites, Toni Storm. Really looking forward to that match for NXT TakeOver tonight. What is your thoughts for this pre-show match? Do you have a prediction?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I think it'd be a great mixture of styles. For me, I think Toni Storm's getting the win here. I think Zoe Stark's on some great work, but I think Toni Storm needs to win after losing at the last takeover. So I think it would make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I think that it's more likely. Zoe Starks has been in there putting some great matches, but she hasn't been winning a lot of the matches. So she seems like she's kind of that rookie that's getting her place, finding her feet on the roster. So I agree with you. Toni Storm probably needs to win most of these two. So yeah, I think that's probably the right way to go. Elsewhere in the news then today, we will quickly just touch on AEW because there's been some big breaking news with that. It has been announced that Mike Tyson is back on Dynamite this evening. What are your thoughts on this? Because the last time he was there, he sort of had that sort of pull apart from Chris Jericho, but now the Inner Circle, they're returning this evening, but they seem to be more baby faces than heels. What are your thoughts? How do you see Mike Tyson fitting in tonight into AEW Dynamite?
I think he's a very interesting character. It's a very interesting move from AEW as a counter to the takeover, but it'll be good to see him back. I'm interested to see if he has the same impact he had back in '98 when he went to WWE and sort of brought them back from the brink against WCW, maybe. But no, I think he's an interesting character. But just interested to see what he does. I think it's a good move from AEW. Very clever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's star power. Yes, of course, he's perhaps not like it was when he came in 1998, but he still has that name value. And it's great to see, someone actually, brought in from like that, like Shaquille O'Neal, that will bring eyes to the product. That's what it's all about. They are still a young company at a very early stage. And to get people like them in, it's incredible. And of course, with a match like Jon Moxley, the Young Bucks taking on, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, that's going to be an amazing match as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing that match. Have you got the same vibes with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's going to be a fantastic Dynamite, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we've got quite a few comments coming in nice and early. Shout out to the WrestleManiac UK. Mex, hope you're doing well. Steve is live. I know, finally it's happening. And yeah, it's great to be doing it. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy this today. And also a big shout as well to a good friend of mine. In fact, James from This Week in Metropolis. Fantastic podcast. Make sure to go check it out. The new episode dropped today, if I'm not mistaken. Afternoon, chaps. Do you see Roderick Strong or Bobby Fish getting involved in the Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly match? Of course, that's night 2 of the NXT Stand and Deliver Takeover. George, I'm going to put that on you first. Do you see any one of them getting involved?
I think if either one, it's going to be Roderick Strong. But for me, I think Kyle O'Reilly's winning. I don't know if Kyle O'Reilly needs to win with help. So maybe I don't think they will. I don't think they'll get involved.
No, I mean, for me, in my personal opinion, I'd like to see it delayed. I mean, the thing is, that when it comes to, a part of like NXT TV, you can build towards that next takeover, the next special. It's good to have extra layers of the story. But Roderick Strong last week, he did leave, and he actually, he vacated his chance of winning the North American Championship. He said he was going home. He couldn't deal with the idea when Cameron Grimes literally was throwing the UE breakup in his face. So there is a chance that could happen. And of course, Bobby Fish has been missing for so long. No one knows when he's coming back. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd like it to remain with Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole solely, as it's an unsanctioned match. But of course, with no rules there either, anything can happen. And yeah, it's going to be a nice surprise. I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to play out. We've got another shout from Noob and Co as well. Io versus Raquel, the ultimate show stealer. Better than Asuka versus Rhea Ripley at Mania. Terrible build and poorly timed heel turn. George, would you agree with that? Our first WrestleMania mention today.
100% agree. I think the comments spot on. Io and Raquel, it does feel more like a WrestleMania match than Asuka Rhea Ripley. But I think both matches would be great. But the heel turn really hasn't helped Rhea Ripley, in all honesty.
No, I would agree. I think that it's just the way that Rhea's been brought up. I don't really have a problem with the heel turn itself. It's more the fact that I sit there and think to myself that, it could have been done better. I mean, Rhea Ripley, she was supposed to be in the Raymond James Stadium last year against Charlotte. That was taken away from her. We could have had that emotional outpour of, I can't miss WrestleMania again. I can't miss it. I've got to have that match. And that could have been the challenge laid out. You could have had that sort of feeling of, it's going to be babyface versus babyface. Then it comes down to the next week in Raw with that contract signing. That's the point. Then you could actually pull the trigger and say, I'm not just the person that just wants to be at WrestleMania in the Raymond James Stadium. I need to win. Especially last year, I lost. I'm not losing 2 manias in a row. It can't happen. And then that way, you really can start building that bloody rivalry quickly. Instead, I kind of feel that we've just tiptoed around the idea of going into the heel turn.
Ripley was so strong in the Royal Rumble, coming in the final 2, and they didn't follow up for weeks, which is kind of why sort of maybe they've had to rush this decision. It's like they only seem to have put Rhea Ripley in this spot the minute Charlotte couldn't appear at Mania, and I think that's unfortunately not helped the build here. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, Steve.
No, I do agree because, I mean, like you say, Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, they were the final 2 and they were built so well in that Rumble match. It just feels, I mean, with the storytelling in general, the build for both of them hasn't been as strong going into WrestleMania, which is just a shame to see. You want to see more going into there. I would agree if all the women's matches that are booked, Io versus Raquel does feel like that ultimate show stealer right now because, I mean, Io Shirai been an incredible champion, a long-term champion, but she's been defending it all the time as well. Raquel Gonzalez has had that, we've known since War Games, it's been destiny. These two will face each other. And I think that's been the problem with these other matches. We've sort of known since the Rumble, it would be Banks and Belair. But at the same time, the build with people like Reginald and people like that, it's just not been there. And I mean, when you look at things with Rhea Ripley as well, I mean, as actually, Mex goes on to say here, Ripley's last 12 months have been botched. Poor lady, she was so hot in 2019, which is the case. She's been badly booked over the last 12 months, and she's found it hard to get that momentum back since WrestleMania 36. Would you agree?
100% agree. I think the comments spot on. I think Mex is on the money there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a shout out as well here. Kobe Talk says, hey, everyone. Hope you're well, Cody, as well. It's good to have you here. And he's also said that he thinks NXT will be better overall build to take over than Raw and SmackDown to WrestleMania. It certainly has been. I think it's been better NXT-wise. Even though they've kind of had less time to throw everything together, it's just felt to me that it's been more impactful, isn't it, in such a quick time?
100% agree. I think this has been the best built takeover ever. I think on record, I think it looks phenomenal. Every single match has got a purpose, and the storylines around them have all been so good as well.
Absolutely. No, I have to agree indeed. But as I say, we want your WrestleMania questions. So do get yourselves involved with any WrestleMania question, whether it's something to do with this year, whether it's to do with last year. We'll be happy to actually answer any questions here to do with WrestleMania. It could be any year. It could be WrestleMania 1. Why not? Throw it at us. But quickly before we do, there has been some breaking news today as well with the fact that knowing that there's been plans that were scrapped for WrestleMania 37. We were expecting to have the Women's Battle Royale. That was going to go down just like, almost like a battle royal like we had on Sunday Night Heat back in '99 for WrestleMania 15, where we're going to have the two final women were going to be as paired up as tag teams to go against the tag team champions Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax the night after. That didn't pan out. In fact, we've now got the tag team turmoil instead. What are your thoughts on that? Would you have liked to see that battle royal way as a stipulation, or do you think it's better that we actually use the women we've got as the actual tag teams that we have?
I think what WWE have done is the best. I think the tag team turmoil's better. The wrestlers they've got are going to get far more time, and it's going to be a very good match. I think it's going to be competitive. It's very open. We don't know who's going to win, and there is the possibility there to add other wrestlers that have not been announced yet, which I think will be a good way to get them on the card, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, it seemed that it was leaked as well that Billie Kay and Carmella would be another team in amongst this. Would you like to see other people? I mean, Bayley doesn't have a match at WrestleMania right now.
100%. I've heard this rumor today about Bayley and Charlotte as a team. I don't know how that comes together with them on different brands, but anything at this point to get Bayley on the card, I think it's a real shame she's not on the card. She's so good, and I really don't know what's gone wrong there. Obviously, she hasn't had a match for a while. It's a bit of a disappointment, really. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, actually watched a small clip with Alex McCarthy, and she just said it's just not materialised. It's just not happened. But she did tease she'd take her own WrestleMania moment. And like we say, Bayley and Charlotte would be interesting as a partnership. Like I say, different brands, they're not together. But if you're tag team champions, you can be on either show. So could the dynamic work?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I don't know if it will happen, but fingers crossed it does. It'd just be great to see Bayley back and wrestling, I think, really. That's more important, really, to me.
Absolutely. But to say one thing quickly, I'm just going to throw a little idea out there because this was suggested to me a little while ago. Bayley and Carmella are actually really good friends in real life. And of course, it was played into storyline before in WWE. That would have been a great idea as a tag team. If you'd have gone with this battle royal, this is just an idea throwing out there. Could you imagine if the last two of that battle royal, because let's face it, we've got a few people that are not even on the WrestleMania card, Nikki Cross being one, Peyton Royce being another. What if Peyton Royce and Billie Kay were the final two in that battle royal? We could have reunited the Iconics.
That would have been a fantastic decision. I think that was one of the worst mistakes, splitting the Iconics. I'd definitely be a fan of it. There is room maybe to get Peyton Royce maybe with Billie Kay at some element. I think that they want to do that soon, hopefully. But no, good suggestion, Steve. I agree with you.
Yeah, well, it's something. It's a dream. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. But shout out to Ryan Awesome. He says, "Hello, guys. It's great to have you on the stream. Thank you so much for coming and joining us." And we've got a WrestleMania question here from Kobe Talks. How long should a WrestleMania go for? Should a WrestleMania be one night or 2 nights? George, I'll let you go for this one first.
2 nights, 100%. I think if a show's 8 hours long, it's not fair on the wrestlers in the crowd. I think the wrestlers in the main event have got no chance of really getting the match over with fans sitting there for 8 hours. So 2 nights, definitely for me, 100%.
Yeah, I'm a 2-night kind of guy. I feel that it worked really well last year, and I think now the fact we're going to see it in the stadium for the first time this year with actually fans in attendance, I think that we're going to actually see something we're not seeing for a few years, which is fans getting burnt out. We see usually around, I think WrestleMania 35 obviously is the last time we had it full packed. Remember Kofi Mania? That was sort of middle of the card. Kofi Kingston beating Daniel Bryan, and I think we got to like match 8, match 9, and I think the crowd started to burn out a little bit. And I think that seems to happen consistently over the last 3 or 4 WrestleManias. And look, for me, it's a dream to go to WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure if I went there, I'd do my best to not get burnt out. And I'm sure everybody in attendance does the same. But I think it suits much better on 2 nights. And I think as a show, WrestleMania, most of them, I think, are around 3.5 to 3.75 hour shows. I think that that's the perfect length for a WrestleMania.
I'd agree with you. I think it's definitely the perfect length. If anything more than sort of 4 hours, not including the kickoff, I think it's a bit too long. But it just gives a great opportunity for these wrestlers to get time, and particularly the main eventers. By the time it gets to the main event, the crowd is still engaged rather than just sort of not being as loud as they once were at the start of the night, really.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. Another shout to Noob and Co here. Charlotte and Bayley, imagine Asuka feuding with them.
Yeah, I don't know. We've seen Asuka and sort of Charlotte quite a few times before. It could be all right. It could be a bit of a legacy match, I guess, if that makes sense. But I think all 3 are good wrestlers, so there'll be nothing wrong with them as long as it's a singles match, not a tag team capacity.
For me, I'm going to say triple threat because, like you say, we've seen the singles matches so many times before with all 3 of them. But hey, don't give WWE ideas. I'm sure they would probably go down that avenue. But saying that, though, Charlotte and Asuka, that feud isn't really finished yet. So maybe they do need to revisit that one more time for a big pay-per-view main event, maybe. But Ryan Awesome, I agree. WrestleMania should be at 2 nights in the future. So we've got someone that agrees with us there. And a good friend of us from Slam Hub Wrestling. Thoughts on AEW piggybacking on WrestleMania weekend? Separate makes a good point there. Of course, AEW is going to be doing a house show on Friday. Of course, this is going to be televised, anything like that. What are your thoughts on that, George? Is this a good idea to do?
I think it's just AEW trying to get as much money out of the situation as possible. I wouldn't say sort of it's the best idea, but you can't blame them. They're a competitive company. They're going to do whatever they can to make money really on this weekend. One of the busiest weeks of the year to be for wrestling fans, so it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. So, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, the thing is it perhaps a bit naughty, but all companies did this. I mean, I remember like when it's normal times, we had like Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground had like that show in New York at the same time. Ring of Honor have done it previously. So they always have that sort of events put in the same area. It's a way to sort of raise the revenue. It's the biggest wrestling weekend of the year. I'm pretty sure AEW at one point said they would never do it. So that's kind of interesting that now they've kind of turned on that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that'll play out. Of course, they can only have so many people in capacity anyway. But I'm sure if people are in the area, that will interest them to go and see other wrestlers and other wrestling during that weekend. So yeah, why not? We've got a question that's coming from Twitter. We got this before we went on the live stream from Jamie. I wanted to get, it's actually 2 questions. And I wanted to put them to you as well, George. Unfortunately, we can't put them on screen. But if Rhea does get beat, does this do more damage for her than when she got beat at last year's WrestleMania? What are your thoughts on that?
The only way Rhea should get beat is if it's by a fluke. Obviously, after the match, she'll have to take Asuka out and sort of be on a rampage, really. I think Rhea doesn't need to get pinned here. I think this will be a shame. Second Mania running, not to get the belt. For me, she has to get pinned. I wouldn't be a fan of her losing in this match at all.
No, I mean, the thing is, I'm honest, I want Rhea Ripley to win the match, but I just feel with the build, as Noob said earlier, the build has been terrible. And also, that was mentioned in the comments also about Ripley not really having the strongest last 12 months. She had a great Royal Rumble showing. I wanted to see more of a build leading into WrestleMania. I think that would have been better. It just doesn't feel right. And there's always one thing that I always look at with WWE booking. It's called 50-50 booking. So that happens all the time in WWE. We're used to seeing it. And I mean, if you look at it, Rhea Ripley there, she was the most dominant one there. She turned on Asuka on Raw. Sometimes when you see that, that means that the pay-per-view, that gives the revenge, because we already see that Rhea Ripley is ready for Asuka. Is Asuka ready for Rhea Ripley? I think that's the big question at this point. But I do agree. I think it will do damage to Rhea Ripley. I don't see where it goes. But at the same time, I do feel this feud is just starting. I can see this going another month or 2 after Mania. Would you agree?
I'd be a fan of that. We need to get this women's belt defended regularly. Obviously, Asuka's had it since SummerSlam, but because of the tag team shenanigans, it's obviously been to the sort of back, if that makes sense. So I'm really hoping that either way, the belt starts getting defended monthly. We need a defending champion, I think. I'm surprised she's not been stripped of it. She's only defended it twice since September, I think I read.
Yeah, you said that on your stream just the other day, didn't you? And yeah, that's a surprising statistic. I mean, Zelina Vega and I think Lana were the last 2, and of course she's been with the Women's Tag Team Championships. She was due to defend it at Elimination Chamber, but of course that did get pulled. But speaking, going back to Rhea Ripley, WrestleMania has said here, if Rhea Ripley is going to lose, give that woman the Money in the Bank briefcase in May in capital letters, and I could not agree with that more. George, surely you agree with me on that one?
He's on the money, 100%. I think that's the person to give the briefcase to. Definitely.
Absolutely, indeed. I mean, she could terrorize the champion with the briefcases, goes on to say then. I completely agree with that comment. And yeah, going back to then the other one from Jamie, he gave us one more question. Thoughts on the idea of Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, the Riott Squad, winning the number 1 contenders turmoil and then becoming the tag team champions? Would you like to see the Riott Squad actually become those tag team champions?
It's a very good feel-good story after that Liv Morgan documentary, I guess. But no, not for me. I really hope that doesn't happen, in all honesty. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they had, they've broken up for a while. They've been brought back together, but unfortunately, they've not really had that momentum, have they? And I mean, the thing is, it would be quite fun if they end up against Billie Kay at some point in that turmoil, because of course they had a little bit of interaction earlier this year, but it already feels so long ago, which is crazy. Do you know what I mean? Because it was only January time, February, and it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels a lifetime ago since they did that, unfortunately. But hey, maybe it will happen, and if it does happen, we'll have to wait and see how it will go down. But I think one thing's for sure, I think it's time that those tag team championships change hands. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, they've had their time. I'd like to see them go back into the singles division personally. Would you agree?
100% agree. I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Is anyone from NXT making the immediate jump from Stand and Deliver to Mania? Of course, Bianca Belair was actually debuted at WrestleMania last year. We get a number of debuts on Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. This week in Metropolis, George, ask you the question, can we see someone from NXT on the main roster either at WrestleMania or just after?
I don't think so. I think because of the current COVID climate, I think we've kind of gone from changing people up. Look at it sort of at Survivor Series last year, we didn't have anybody from NXT, whereas other years we had. Royal Rumble, we didn't really have a lot of NXT wrestlers. If it's anybody that's going to go up, it's obviously going to be somebody that loses sort of at the takeover, I guess. There are people that are certainly capable of going up. Io Shirai could be good. Dakota Kai could be good. Karrion Kross could be good. But no, for me, I don't think that's going to happen. I'd love to see it happen. It would be interesting, engaging. Raw needs that, certainly, but I just don't see it happening, unfortunately.
We'll have to wait and see how it will go down. I mean, for me, I look at it and say, like you say, it depends who loses these matches. Always the key, isn't it? I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if someone like Adam Cole lost and then turned up on the main roster straight afterwards? But I'm kind of on the same boat as you. Usually someone does. And I mean, even with the pandemic going on last year, one person did in Bianca Belair, so maybe one will. The question is who. If I had to put my money on who it would be, I would go Io Shirai, but I want her to stay in NXT. I'm very worried how she'd be treated on the main roster. Would you have the same worry, George?
Yeah, they haven't got a good track record of their booking people based on sort of recent weeks. But no, definitely, I think Io Shirai is going to go up. Where would you like to see her go, Steve? What would be your brand of choice if she had to go?
I think I'd have to go SmackDown at this point. I know that Raw isn't necessarily being treated as the best place right now with the women's division. Like you said, the belt isn't being defended regularly. A lot of women are in the tag team division rather than the singles division. But at the same time, I do feel on SmackDown, I just feel Io would have, would fit in better. You look at the matches there. Bayley, we said she's not got a match at WrestleMania. I mean, Sasha Banks would be a great match. Her and Bianca Belair as well, and Carmella. There's some great talent pool that Io Shirai could face on there. And I do see that she'd be someone that potentially could break through on SmackDown, where I think if she went to Raw, there's dream matches galore. I mean, look, her and Asuka would be an amazing match to watch, but I don't see WWE booking it that way. She may have that immediate impact, but I could see her getting lost in the shuffle like 6 months down the line. I feel it's criminal to say that. I think she's the best women's wrestler in the world.
I have one slight concern. Look at the way they put Nakamura. Nakamura isn't natively an English speaker, if that makes sense. Because Io Shirai doesn't speak a lot of English, and her promos are probably lost slightly. Do you think that would hinder her? Do you think she'd be underused? Like, it would be the same as Nakamura, wouldn't it? Almost potentially.
I have that same vibe. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I love the way it's presented on NXT because obviously she's speaking Japanese a lot of time. You get the subtitles at the bottom, but just that passion that comes out of her passionate Japanese promos, you sit and go, I'm still really into this, and I've got the subtitles to help me out. I don't know why WWE doesn't do it more often. I mean, not to mention AEW here, but Pentagon, he did that in Lucha Underground all the time and had that sort of passionate promos with the video packages, with the subtitles. Even in Impact did that. It got him so much more over. And I think you can miss a trick by not doing it. I really, really do. We'll go then to Ryan Awesome, who's got a comment here for us. I think the Money in the Bank ladder match should be on WrestleMania instead of the Battle Royale. Very good question there. George, how do you feel about that?
I'd love to see it, but it would destroy the pay-per-view the month after. But I really would be a fan of it. It'd be good fun. I remember when it used to be on WrestleMania. It used to be really, really good. Absolutely. I mean, some of my favorite WrestleManias have those in it. Of course, it debuted at WrestleMania 21, Edge being the inaugural winner. I wouldn't mind seeing it being brought back because obviously at that point, if someone didn't cash it in, and I always wanted this storyline to play out where it gets towards the end of the calendar year that they have to cash it in and they've still not done it. All of a sudden, having the momentum of being the person that can cash it in, they're almost the one that's at panic because the champion says, well, you've got to cash it in at some point. And the idea that they kind of have to cash it in at WrestleMania. So in some ways, I think that would be a great dynamic to go down, and you could always put another different pay-per-view in there. There's so many great retired names of pay-per-views, so that could be fun to see there. But no, it's a very interesting question. I personally wouldn't mind seeing it brought back, but I'm not hurt by it being its own pay-per-view either. Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's go into our next comment in from Slap Hub Wrestling. I have a feeling that Drew McIntyre is getting booed if he beats Bobby Lashley for the title. You're not the only one. I'll take this one first, George, if you don't mind. I really have that same feeling, and I'm a bit worried for it because Drew has been booked as a top babyface. He's been booked as a great babyface as well, in my opinion. I think he's been booked fantastic. But he's had his time. He's had his time for the last sort of year, the pandemic era. Drew McIntyre carried it on his back and done his best he could do with it. But if he has that championship again, despite having new challengers like Braun Strowman, The Fiend, we have seen him with that belt for so long now. It would be nice to see something different. Bobby Lashley's only had it for a cup of tea, and Bobby Lashley looks so dominant on the road to winning that championship. It almost feels that it's been a criminal misuse of Bobby Lashley in the last sort of couple of weeks, that he's almost looking for people to do the dirty work for him. I want to see a dominant Bobby Lashley here, and I think this is trying to put the wall over our eyes, but I don't think fans are going to buy it. I think if Drew wins, he gets booed. Do you feel the same way, George?
Yeah, I agree. I think Bobby needs to retain the belt. Clearly, they did a great promo from Drew on Raw, very impactful, very emotional, if that makes sense, which kind of trying to get the fans on his side to a certain point. But for me, I think it would be a shame to get the belt off Bobby. It hasn't had it long. Even with Baron Corbin getting involved, Bobby's still probably one of the most hottest acts in WWE at the moment, besides Roman Reigns. I think for me, keep the win streak going, and let's hope he retains it. But it's all down to position of the card. If he's there and he's the opening act, I can't see them wanting to open the show and sort of the fans be booing on it. So if the show opens up, then maybe Bobby retains. But if the show goes home and that's the main event, then yeah, they may want to put it on Drew really just to get that feel good factor.
Yeah, that's certainly a great point there. Hey, I've got another question just before we go on to our next question here because it's come from this one. if Drew McIntyre was to get his moment at WrestleMania, would you be okay if Lashley won it the month after? Because the idea is for Drew to win it in front of fans.
No, I'm not a fan of hot potato and belts. I think you've done that already at Elimination Chamber, where you got the belt off Drew to Miz to Lashley. I don't think Drew can have his moment at SummerSlam. Will there be even more fans? Why not keep it on Lashley till then?
Yeah, I'm down with that. I totally agree. And personally, we mentioned Money in the Bank a couple of times on this. Just to give it some credibility, I like seeing new stars in Money in the Bank, but I'd actually like to see Drew McIntyre in that match, because afterwards you kind of get at a crossroads of him. Where does he go from here? Does he have to turn heel? Does he have to change his character? Does he try and go for the quick fix and go for a rematch or Money in the Bank? I think he'd add credibility to that match, and it's a gimmick match, which we've mentioned already here, but it's something that WWE really needs to manage right this year. They can't get Money in the Bank wrong for another year. They've done it for the last 3 or 4 years. So we say how we want it on WrestleMania. It could be a damaged prop if it's not booked right very soon. But WrestleMania UK, 2 weeks after calling him the almighty WWE champion, he is the jobber locker room asking Lucha House Party for help. Yeah, kind of. It is what it is, unfortunately. I think WWE wants us to boo him, but I don't think many of us are.
No, definitely not. I think that just says what it is. This is a Lashley that could beat anybody at any moment, sort of earlier on in the year. Then he's going around sort of looking for jobbers. It's one of them things, I guess. But putting him with Baron Corbin, that was pretty distasteful, I'd say. But they seem to have got rid of that kind of quite quickly, which is good. They seem to sort of remove that after this week, hopefully. But no, it's going to be a good match. Yeah. I'm really excited to see what happens. I don't know sort of how it's going to play out. I think it's dependent on what happens on the other world title match on the other night, which will decide who's going to win this match ultimately. Because I don't think they're going to be two sort of feel-good stories. I don't think WWE are going to do that, really.
No, absolutely not. And just while we're on the subject of that, I just got a comment here from Kobe Talks. He says, I think Keith Lee should cost Drew the title. Lashley retains, and then Keith Lee joins the Hurt Business, and then let Drew have a few months of rebuild. Lashley versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. I mean, that's a great booked storyline. That would work really, really well. And that's an impactful way of bringing Keith Lee back in. Of course, right now we sort of turn around and say, well, we'd like Keith Lee to be in and around the main event. But let's be honest, at this point, I think him being in Hurt Business under MVP and Bobby Lashley, we're doing good. He's not had the strongest booking at the moment on the main roster. So what do you feel, George? Do you think that's a great idea?
I mean, it's fantastic. It's a really good idea. What we want to see coming out of this WrestleMania is longevity and some future storylines, some future storyline movement. Lashley and Drew, if it's done well, can be going another 2 or 3 months. I think they can get another 2 or 3 months out of this feud. This is a lot more hotter than their Backlash match they had last year, if that makes sense. So I'm a fan of that. I want to see Keith Lee come back eventually, but they've got to do something, because either way, I think if they're going to have this match as a rematch and Money in the Bank potentially, it's not going to be a clean finish. I don't think you go for a clean finish.
It'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting how it goes down. Like you said, there is mileage in this one, so looking forward to seeing it. But another comment here, and this is a fun one, because we know where WrestleMania is going to be for the next couple of years, but where should WWE host WrestleMania 14 and after WrestleMania 14? I must admit, it's a shame that I can't pull this up on the screen, but there was someone that put amazing logos of different locations for WrestleMania, places like Canada, Sydney, Australia, the UK, Las Vegas. Where would you like to see WrestleMania 14? Where do they need to go, George?
I think if I'm saying personally, I'd love to see it in London, but logically, I think they need to go to Madison Square Garden. Let's go back to a nostalgic venue. I think there's so much history at Madison Square Garden. I think it'd be a great place to go back to.
Absolutely. I must admit, I'm biased here. I also want to see a UK WrestleMania. It needs to happen at some point. I'd love to see it go down. But yeah, we'll have to see how it's going to go. But I must admit, I did feel Australia had a great shot with their Super Showdown the other year. So maybe that could be fun. But of course, the only thing is, it's that time difference, isn't it? And that poor sausage that's always sitting in the crowd in the old WrestleMania saying, Vancouver. Hopefully one day you'll get your wish, mate. But it doesn't seem to be anytime soon, unfortunately. But Noob and Co. then next then, if Oscar is to lose, what happens post-Mania? He'll turn written off TV due to injury, go back to NXT, or even go to SmackDown on Fox, or should you go back to the women's tag team division? Lots of suggestions there from Noob. I'll start off by saying I would definitely don't want to see in the tag team division. I think she's far too talented. She needs to be involved here in some sort of storyline in the singles division. We can't have more tag teams in WWE. I would like to see with Oscar a redemption story. If she is actually going to lose that championship, she needs to feel almost like the same as Drew McIntyre, feel that urge and that need to get back. Almost the fact that, you know, maybe she can feel undervalued. She was the champion. She's not been booked to defend it and being able to, you know, being meaningful programs that she wants to be. Like, she's supposed to face Lacey Evans at Elimination Chamber. It gets pulled. She doesn't even get a replacement. She could use that into the narrative of the storyline. I want to see a frustrated Oscar. That would be the road I would go down. How about you, George?
Definitely. I think they need to, as you said, do a rejuvenation storyline. I think keep her sort of off TV maybe for a short time, but let's get her back to where she once was. Obviously, she got the belt by beating Sasha Banks. That's quite a big win. She got Money in the Bank briefcase last year, which was quite a good story. I think definitely she needs to go back to a singles wrestler, but I don't think she's go back to NXT. But let's just keep her strong, really. Let's actually give her singles matches. That's what I want to see more than anything, really.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And we've got another one from Kobe here. If Edge wins the Universal title, should Edge bring back the big gold, the World Heavyweight Championship? It is a dream, isn't it? Let's be honest. I'd love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to be the big blue belt rather than the gold one, unfortunately. But it's a storyline I think should have been used going into WrestleMania. How do you feel, George?
It would be fun if they did it, definitely.
Absolutely, indeed. There, just to go back on our WrestleManias there. Those WrestleMania sets for London and Las Vegas would be great. Yes. Could you imagine spending all the money for tickets to go to WrestleMania and then blowing the rest of your money actually in Las Vegas? I can see that going down. It would, it definitely wouldn't end well for me, I don't think. But yes, we've got a few more comments here anyway. Jamie Holmes, thank you for joining us here. Personally, he hopes that Bobby Lashley retains the title. Was hot potato from the Miz to Bobby Lashley and doesn't think it should happen again. I think he's spot on with the money. That George, you've said that already as well. Slam Hub Wrestling. What match kicks off night one of WrestleMania? Here's the money match here, because let's be honest, this is going to be a main event in itself, a WrestleMania moment. Arguably, this could be more important than the main event. The first match in front of fans in over a year. What match should it be? Who should get that honor, in your opinion, George?
I think Drew and Lashley. I think you've really got to send the Sasha Bianca thing to the end of the night. That's been one of the better built-up feuds of this WrestleMania card. So for me, I think Drew and Lashley should be the one that opens up the night. I think Drew deserves it as well. Drew did so much great work in 2020 without a crowd. He was the patriot probably of the COVID era, I'd say, in WWE. So I think he deserves that pop. As much as I'm not a fan of him winning the match, I think Drew definitely deserves that pop, I think.
Yeah, I agree with. I think that should be the match that kicks off the show. I think that Sasha and Bianca, we can have another women's main event, which we've not had since WrestleMania 35. That would be quite cool to see. And like you said, both matches are going to feel like main events wherever they are on the card. But for me, if one opens the show and one closes the show, I think hopefully everybody's a winner. And I mean, if Sasha and Bianca actually main events the show and Lashley and Drew actually kick off the show, hopefully Twitter won't go into meltdown. So that's personally for me how I'd like to see it go down. But this week in Metropolis, any chance Lashley retains and then Lesnar returns to finally set up their match? One can dream. I would love that to happen. Could you imagine SummerSlam, Lashley versus Lesnar? I would love to see that.
I think it'd be fantastic, particularly if you keep Lashley as strong as he's been, going in on a win streak. I definitely would love to see that. I think it would be a dream match. I can't see it though. Do you think Lesnar will come back for next year's Mania? Maybe, but I think if he was going to come back already, he'd be there now already. To be fair,
I kind of felt that with fans that Lesnar would actually come back for this year's WrestleMania, but it's not happened, has it? But maybe they want 4 arenas. Maybe they want to do big. Maybe when it goes to WrestleMania next year, that this could be a match that can happen there. I think the key of everything of this is that if Lashley loses the championship, whether he wins or loses here, he cannot lose the momentum. Lashley has to be remaining a main event player in WWE. That has to be the case, because if Lashley's kept to that level, when Lesnar comes in, that's a match that you can make straight away. If Lashley goes back to, bringing some more sisters back onto TV, maybe patting his bum again, it's not going to work well for him. So for me, I don't want to see that. I want Lashley to remain the monster that he is. And of course, in a dream world, he retains at WrestleMania. So, but yeah, we both would love to see the match somewhere further down the line. Another shout here from Jamie Holmes. Do you think Oscar Rhea Ripley would have been better if they both stayed face instead of Rhea Ripley turning in a sort of respectish feud? I kind of would like to have seen the face versus face. I mean, you could have done that dynamic, made the better woman win. I would have also liked to see it for Sasha and Bianca personally as well. But what are your feelings on that, George?
Yeah, I would like to have seen it. I think they should have put the Rhea Ripley heel turn in the Mania match. I think that would have been far more impactful. But no, I think it could work. It's just depending if Rhea Ripley's good enough to pull off the heel roll. Do you think she's good enough, Steve?
I mean, she's done it before. She was in NXT UK. She was doing the heel roll very, very well. I thought that she had some great characteristics on Raw this week, where she was patting Oscar on the head. So It's not all bad. It's just the fact that when she was that hot as a babyface, like everyone was turning around and saying Rhea Ripley is the next big star in WWE, and put the rocket to her and just let her go to the moon. Like I'm sure Cameron Grimes would like that treatment as well. But to be fair, like I just feel that it could have been something special, but unfortunately they've gone down this route, and it just feels a bit awkward at this point. So let's see how it plays out. I mean, we're still very early into the storyline. Maybe we are too quick to judge. I think WrestleMania UK is actually in the ECW arena as we speak. It says if Edge wins the Universal title, we riot, unless he brings the big gold belt back. We'd love to see it. We really would love to see it. Slam Hub Wrestling, have you guys watched WrestleMania 14? If yes, what do you think about it? Good, nice to see a retro question here. George, we love our retro wrestling. We love 1998. I think you should kick this off. What are your thoughts on WrestleMania 14?
What a fantastic show. The turning of guard. WWE finally turned it around. That main event of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels with Tyson as referee. Phenomenal. We obviously had the first ever Undertaker Kane match. Yeah, it really brings back great memories. I think throughout the card, it was just a fun show.
Yeah, it was. It's fantastic. I mean, like you say, we had Mike Tyson involved there, of course, with the main event, iconic sort of going on with Steve Austin. The Austin era began. Undertaker Kane, it's a great undercard as well. This was like the WrestleMania that kind of it solidified what the Attitude Era really meant. So it's a very important show when you look at things and look for the history of WWE. What they do on that day, that's the representation of what you get for the next 3 years in the company. So it's a very important WrestleMania. And I mean, it was the turning point of the Monday Night War as well. And we mentioned how good it is AEW getting Mike Tyson in tonight. I mean, it's the exact same when Tyson came there. Of course, perhaps it's not the same star value as it was back then, but at the same time, that was what drew eyes from Monday Nitro to Monday Night Raw, seeing Tyson there, and then that sort of brought everything going on forth. And it was the turning point. That's where it happened, where we could see WWE winning the war.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got Toby talks here once again. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn will deliver because they are really good friends backstage. They will go all out at WrestleMania. Do you agree to that?
100%. They're going to be great matches.
Absolutely. Indie Darlings treat, isn't it? And I must admit, they're two matches that I really want to see. And as you can see on the bottom of the screen there, just to keep the involvement going, SCW, today, we want to know what is your favorite WrestleMania of all time. So it's not just us that get the questions, you're getting them as well. What's your favorite WrestleMania of all time? Maybe we can talk about 1 or 2 moments from each of those WrestleManias if you let us know in the comments below. But I'll start off, George. What's your favorite WrestleMania of all time?
WrestleMania 17.
I think that's, for me, it's the same as well, WrestleMania. So what is so special about that show that means a lot to you?
I think just the storytelling throughout the show, it's just full of sort of brutality. That Triple H Undertaker match where Undertaker got sledgehammered, I thought it just told a great story, and just it had everything. You had like sort of obviously the hardcore match with Raven, Kane, and the Big Show. That was a good laugh with the golf truck and all that. I just think it was a great time, really. I think and we also had Paul Heyman on commentary. I think looking back at it, that was the ultimate kind of WrestleMania. It was at the point when WWE were just about to buy WCW, and it was so exciting to be a fan, never knowing that whether WCW were going to turn up on the night or anything like that. You had that question mark going into the WrestleMania. Not only have you got one of the greatest built WrestleManias of all time, you've got question marks of who's going to be there, whether Goldberg would turn up and stuff like that. It was just a really fun time back then, really.
Absolutely. No, I feel the exact same. And it's hard to say that sometimes, shows can be perfect, but this really felt a near on perfect show. Even matches that weren't necessarily good matches, they were quick, they fitted the style. Like not everything was a 5-star classic. You fitted variety in there. You had that sort of technical masterclass of Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. You also had like those sort of matches where it was just about brawling. That's pretty much what it was a lot of time. You had the sort of the whole angles. I mean, Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon, I must admit, going back to that as a teenager, I wasn't excited for that match when it got to WrestleMania. I was like, well, they're not going to be great in the ring, but the angle on the story completely sold me. And when Linda got out of that chair and the place erupted, if you could be just a fan in the crowd for that moment, it must have been just such a great feeling to just hear the place erupt. WrestleMania 17 really is special.
I just think the heel turn as well, like to see that heel turn at such a pinnacle point as well. They talk about heel turns these days. That is what you need to do. Whether someone maybe at WrestleMania this year, you need to do a heel turn or something to get people talking. You know what I mean? It's just one of them things where it's one of the most shocking things of all time. You've got a heel turn, and then it just reinvents Stone Cold Steve Austin as a character. I just think seeing how over Stone Cold The Rock were, having the crowd in their palm of their hands, I think it just it's amazing watching back now, I think.
Absolutely, indeed. And like you say, that heel turn was, no one saw that coming. And of course, in hindsight, it wasn't the best booking move when you look how things went panning out after that, because the ratings were never the same again. But at the same time, you look there and say, it was an epic moment, and it was an epic main event, arguably one of the best WrestleMania main events of all time. WrestleMania UK has said, of all time, WrestleMania 17, but in recent years, WrestleMania 31. What are your memories of WrestleMania 31, George, from 2015? Of course, that's when Seth Rollins did the heist of the century.
Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I thought it told a good tale. I really love the Sting Triple H match where we've got the legends there, and you've got that meeting of the gods. You've got the NWO DX as well. Randy Orton, Seth Rollins had a great match. The Cena Rusev match was fun as well. Yeah, really, really fun match. Really, I really kind of enjoyed that event. I think it was good. And as I said, there's a closing angle there, which I'm always a fan of a closing angle, 100%. End the show on a cliffhanger, nothing better.
Absolutely, because you need to watch the next show, like Raw. The next night, it's like I can't miss. Seth Rollins cashed in, the whole place went mental because I think everyone thought Reigns was winning, and that was the point where Reigns was at his probably most least popular probably in his entire career. Imagine this year, everyone's probably going to hate the idea that Reigns loses the belt. I think this year it seems to be a very weird contrast. But actually comparing WrestleMania 31 to this year, I kind of have that similar vibe because you and Mex actually did a Fastlane review not so long ago from 2015. That wasn't the best build to that WrestleMania, just like this year isn't the best build, but on the night, it could be an absolutely fantastic show. And that was arguably, it's in the top 5 WrestleManias. I mean, we don't even mention the open, the ladder match there where Daniel Bryan won the Intercontinental Championship, a very special ladder match that was there with so much star power in it as well. WrestleMania 31 just can't be ignored.
No, definitely not. I think it's an underrated one that deserves a lot more praise than it gets, definitely in modern times.
Absolutely, indeed. And Ryan Awesome here, WrestleMania 23, Batista versus The Undertaker for the big gold belt. I have to agree with this. I never watched WrestleMania 23 when it happened. I didn't have the ability to, and I watched it probably about 3 or 4 years ago now for the first time. And I've got to say, that WrestleMania from start to finish is a wow factor. Yes, we have the battle with the billionaires and stuff like that as well. But this match here, Batista, Undertaker, and of course, John Cena and Shawn Michaels, the main event there, both were 2 absolute epic classics. Absolutely amazing. Was you a fan of WrestleMania 23?
Yeah, I thought it was great. You've got a great mixture of people in there. You've obviously got Great Khali, Kane. You've got Chris Benoit, MVP, ECW Originals, New Breed. It's a fun time. And obviously having Bobby Lashley there, I just thought it's a really fun time. And the John Cena, Shawn Michaels match, that was a really iconic match, really, looking back at it.
Absolutely, it was amazing, and actually to think when you look back at it, that their match that they had in the European tour on Raw that went an hour just a couple of weeks later is actually an even better match than that. It just shows these two, they were the right choice, arguably, to go WrestleMania that year because it was so awesome. But this match, I think, was like match 4 on the card. And you just see how much they had a great rivalry overall, Batista and Undertaker. That carried on for what felt like the entire year after that. So no, absolutely amazing stuff indeed. They're great recommendation of WrestleMania 23. Anyone that needs a WrestleMania to go and watch before WrestleMania this year, I recommend that's definitely one of them because it's a highly underrated one in my opinion. WrestleMania, once again, what is the one WrestleMania match outcome that you guys would change? Wow, over all the years. If you could change one, George, what would it be? This is a difficult one.
Yeah, I think I'd change Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, the streak. I'd have Undertaker win. I think that was a massive mistake to have Brock beat the Undertaker. Although Brock went on to be a megastar, I think the Undertaker streak should have been protected and maybe lost to somebody that was there more long term, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great shout there. The streak, of course, was massive at the time. And I suppose it did have to end one day, but it just, I don't know, that it just, you saw the energy go out of that room. You're never going to forget WrestleMania 30 after that. Absolutely incredible. For me, if I had to change one, I did a review on this just recently. WrestleMania 9 would be the one I would change because Hulk Hogan winning the championship after Yokozuna had won it 2 minutes earlier and the match was like 22 seconds. This was politics 101. It was just absolutely dreadful. And for me, it just showed the sign of the time. I mean, I didn't really enjoy watching Hogan matches as a child because Hogan always won. I thought it was quite boring. I was much more invested with the idea of when it was like, you know, someone else winning. Like I love WrestleMania 6 just purely because the Warrior beat Hogan. So yeah, for me, that's definitely the one there because it just felt so political. It really undermined Yokozuna and Bret Hart, and of course, it took a while for them to recover after that.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think that WrestleMania 9 wasn't a great show, was it? Let's be fair.
No, we've reviewed it. In fact, I've reviewed it twice, which I probably need expecting after that. So, but anyway, we mentioned the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. Do you agree with Triple H's statement that he said Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre are the Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior of the modern day?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Both of them are probably the 2 of the most protected wrestlers on the main roster now. So I think that's a fair comparison. They probably don't have the ability to move the ratings and draw the crowd in if we did have crowds like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. But I'd agree. I think that's a really fair comparison.
Yeah, it's a fair comparison. I sometimes get the Austin Rock vibes with it, just purely not because of star power, not because of ratings, obviously nothing to do with that. But those 2 wrestlers were fighting for years and years, and we had those WrestleMania main events, but they actually had matches before that for the Intercontinental Championship. Austin and The Rock, I think it was D-Generation X in Your House was in '97, was one of their first encounters. And then you see with these guys, they wrestled at WrestleMania 35. They've had the big match at Survivor Series. You twisted it, and each time they've wrestled, that it just feels that the star power between these two has got bigger. They have wrestled on one of those sort of B minor pay-per-views as well. So I mean, they have history together. They're perhaps more like potential level. They could go perhaps maybe Cena Orton if they're lucky of that sort of ratings level. But as a sort of comparison careers, I do kind of get those vibes with Austin and The Rock just a little bit. Slam Hub Wrestling, he was watching the Hall of Fame, and host Jerry Lawler said something along the lines of Daniel Bryan went mainstream because of the Bellas. Thoughts? I haven't had a chance to watch Hall of Fame yet. That's an interesting line to say the very least. Certainly, I'm sure that got a reaction on Twitter. George, what are your thoughts with that?
I saw the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I think it's a fair analysis, but it's one of the things with it. I guess that Daniel Bryan, as I said, is probably not a people person, but money talks. I guess that's probably why money and the wife has talked. So yeah, I think that's probably a fair comment by Jerry in all fairness.
I mean, for me, I kind of feel that everyone's just been on Daniel Bryan's side since the start. So I don't know if I personally agree with it, but I'm sure more than anything that is done to wind up the indie darlings. I'm sure that's what it is. So I mean, for people like myself that's been a fan of Daniel Bryan for many, many years, I suppose that's done as a bit of a wind up, I guess. And yeah, I'm sure Jerry got his way. But of course, the Bellas, they are major mainstream. They've done stuff outside of WWE as well. So yeah, I can see the point, but. Yeah, I don't personally agree. I think Daniel Bryan could have done it on his own merit, to be honest, but that's just me. Kobe talks, one of his favourite WrestleManias from the last 10 years is WrestleMania 28. Once in a lifetime, or should we say twice, John Cena versus The Rock was unbelievable. An end of an era. That's my favourite match of WrestleMania, by the way, of all time. And CM Punk versus Chris Jericho. I have to agree that this is definitely one of the best in the last 10 years. George, do you agree?
Yeah, I remember watching it live. It was a fantastic show. That's the one where isn't that the one where Daniel Bryan basically wins the belt off Sheamus in like a minute at the start of the show, isn't it? Am I mistaken there?
Sheamus actually went off Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds.
Vice versa. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
18 seconds. So a lot of people were upset about that.
Yeah.
There's me being the indie darling there, and I was sort of okay with it. But it led to what it led going forward for Daniel Bryan was so special because that's where it started with, you know, his championship matches with CM Punk over the summer of 2012, and then of course it led to Team Hell No with Dr. Shelby, which was just hilarious. And then we kind of got it when we got to the Yes Move, and it molded Daniel Bryan into what we got today. So you know, absolutely incredible stuff. But you know, WrestleMania 28, I agree. If I could go back and watch one of the modern era, that's probably the one I would pick because, like I say, Cena at Rock, that felt big time. We talk about mainstream main event WrestleMania. It's hard to get a match on that level this day in 2021. That felt really special, and it took a year to build. They sacrificed WrestleMania 27 for it, arguably. So yeah, absolutely incredible stuff indeed there. And another one that's underrated is WrestleMania 21. I completely agree. The birth of the Ruthless Aggression Stars. Cena wins the title. Batista wins the world title. Edge wins Money in the Bank, the first one ever. And of course, you've got Taker versus Orton, and who can forget Kurt Angle versus HBK. Absolutely spot on. This is one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. George, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a really, really solid show. I think it certainly is one of them. Ruthless Aggression. It was a great time in WWE, that's for sure. I remember it being a really fun show to watch.
Absolutely, indeed. Just to give people just a heads up, we're going to go for about another 10 minutes. So with the questions we've got, we'll do our best to get through all of them to the very, very finish. But what's your thoughts then on the WrestleMania build then from Kobe?
Yeah, I think it's not been great. I don't want to sort of sugarcoat it. I think there's been some great moments, but unfortunately due to politics and whatever else, they keep changing their mind. The only match they've had all on was the Sasha Bianca match, and they've screwed up the build of that. So I'm looking forward to WrestleMania, but it's not been very well built. I really hope that next year will be far better when in the 80,000 seat stadium, the TNT Stadium next year. I really hope they're going to be a lot more organised.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I just wonder as well with Peacock, the transition of WWE Network, you would have thought that they would have gone a bit harder to try and make such a great build, but it's just not really worked out. And of course, they've got Fox as well to worry about, USA Network. I mean, they have a lot of big money coming from a lot of sources, and yet they're, you know, there's a little bit of concern there that they've not put the build in. But like I said earlier on, like WrestleMania 31, that wasn't the best build in the world, but it was a fantastic WrestleMania. So if it's all right on the night, is all forgiven?
Yeah, no, I think definitely. I think in-ring, I think it'll be fine. I just hope it tells a good story. I think the credit to them, they have built up this triple threat like really, really well for the Universal title. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing that, but I just think it's one of them things where the problem is they didn't know about injuries and they just constantly change stuff. I think the problem is they've had no real long-term plan of what the car was going to look like for months, it seems.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I completely agree with that point there. Ryan Awesome says that Bray Wyatt versus John Cena at WrestleMania 30 is the one he would change. That was a great suggestion there. I really like that suggestion because Wyatt should have won that match. There's no arguments there, is there?
Yeah, Wyatt hasn't been particularly successful at WrestleMania. I think he should either beat Undertaker or should beat Cena. I agree with that comment.
Yeah, arguably both of them. If he doesn't win against Orton this Sunday, that would be a real shock, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got. What's your favorite WrestleMania tagline? We've got the Ultimate Challenge. The Mega Powers explodes. That's one of my personal favorites. What's yours?
Mine's WrestleMania 7. Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, that's a good throwback. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that one. That was really good. Yeah, I mean, to go back for that show, Ultimate Warrior Macho Man is definitely worth seeing. The first match of Undertaker's streak, but yeah, I mean, the main event that one wasn't overly great, was it?
No, it wasn't a fantastic show. That's for sure.
No. But maybe in a few years it could be McIntyre versus Reigns as the main event of WrestleMania. I agree with this. A couple of people did some fan art for WrestleMania 38. I'd love to see that. How about you?
Yeah, I would. They had a great match at Survivor Series. I think there's a lot more they could tell with the story. So, yeah, I think that's a match you've got to do definitely down the line if you're not going to get The Rock back or Lesnar back. I think this is the route to go down.
Absolutely, indeed. Martin Carrillo, thank you for joining us here today. It says, Bad Bunny over-deliver. Will he over-deliver in the ring at WrestleMania? Is he going to be like a Pat McAfee? Is he going to be someone like Steve Amell? Can we see something special from Bad Bunny at WrestleMania?
Yes, I think he's going to be really, really good. I think he's had time to work on it, and I think they're going to pull it out of the bag. I think he's got some good wrestlers with him. John Morrison's a fantastic think Damian Priest is a bad worker either. So I think them two can kind of cover him a little bit.
Absolutely, indeed. Now, I agree with it. I must admit, the passion from Bad Bunny. He's gone 2 feet in the door here. He's absolutely loved this. It's like his dream. He's really given everything. He's a Grammy winner. He's like a multi-platinum selling artist. And this guy has come into WWE and given everything. He's sharing everything. His stuff with his merch has been really popular. Social media with YouTube. All of his clips have blown up as well. This guy has got to go down as one of the best celebrities in WWE history coming in. Would you agree with that?
100%. The passion that he shows every single week, it looks like he wants to be there, which is great to see. Obviously, they've had celebs there. They've been reluctant to do anything, but he looks like a great addition to the roster. I think they've done a great job of getting him sort of over to the non-wrestling fans. That's probably the reason why he's there, to sort of get the non-wrestling fans interested in this WrestleMania, but he looks a great addition, that's for sure.
Absolutely, indeed. There, he's over delivered. Definitely, I have to agree. He's been fantastic with it. And I mean, Logan Paul has come in as well. And I'm sure that'll bring some eyes to the prize, but that's not really done anything for me. If you put two of them hand in hand, Bad Bunny wins all day long. I think he's been absolutely fantastic coming in. And for me, it goes hand in hand. I mean, I don't mind his music, but I'd definitely be a keen eye of seeing what's going on with Bad Bunny after WrestleMania if he's not in with WWE.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. Hopefully, he gives that rub to Damian Priest. I
hope so as well. I mean, that's the most important thing, and I think it's one of the safest bets for WrestleMania this year. We've got WrestleMania UK. Braun Strowman most likely beats Shane on the weekend. What would you do with his next 12 months, and what would they look like in your opinion, George?
I think you need to get rid of the train music. That's the first thing. The choo-choo, drop that crap and the slime and all that lot. Let's get him back to the Braun we used to know that was on a tear, because I think this guy could be great. I want to see him be a bit more serious. Let's see him be a dominant wrestler and go on a bit of a win streak. I think that's the way to sort of build him up. I think you need to rebuild him for the rest of 2021.
Absolutely. I want my monster back. That's what I want. I want 2017 Braun Strowman destroying stuff. I want him literally causing carnage. To be honest, you say he most likely beats Shane on the weekend. I'll give a little spoiler because my predictions for WrestleMania aren't available right now. Let's give 108 free here. I've actually predicted Shane McMahon's going to win the match. I may be crazy. I probably am. I am. There's no really getting around that. But I just think the way it's going to go down, the storyline here is that Braun has been stupid. He's the one that's picked the stipulation. It just screams that Shane McMahon is going to find a way to outsmart him, because we know wrestlers can get in and out of the cage. And if you go back to St. Valentine's Day Massacre 1999, that was where Paul White, the Big Show, made his debut. He threw Stone Cold Steve Austin into the cage. The cage broke and Austin went to the floor, and that let him go to WrestleMania to face The Rock. I can see something like that happening, or even something where, Shane wins the match. He wins the battle but loses the war. We need one crazy spot from Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Could you imagine him being thrown off of the top of the cage to go through the announcer's table? Something like that, where Shane still wins the match, but Braun is the monster coming out of it. Would you be a fan if something like that went down?
100%. Obviously, they're going to do this crazy spot with Shane, but for me, I think Elias and Jackson Riker will get involved. That's the only way Shane's probably going to win this match. But it's only designed really for the spot. The whole point is the cage is the spot with Shane. But yeah, I think it'd be all right. But I'm going for Braun. I think Braun has to win this. He needs to rebuild. He's been bullied in this feud. They want to feel good stories, so it makes sense for the person to be bullied. I can't believe I'm saying he's been bullied at 7 foot tall. Is I think he's actually going to win. I think it would make sense really for Braun basically to get his revenge and get the win here because they need to pay this feud off and get it done once and for all.
Absolutely. I just want to say very quickly, thank you so much to everyone that's been throwing in your questions today. It's really been great to have everybody involved. We've got 3 more questions here in the comments. Going to tackle those ones, and then we'll be coming off today. But I just want to say it's been amazing doing this. I've enjoyed it, and I just want to say thank you for everyone that's support that's come in and watched this, that's left comments and has got themselves involved. It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed this discussion, and I hope you guys watching it have enjoyed this as well. We've got 3 more to go here, and Kobe Talks here saying that at the next big WrestleMania main event, like Rock versus Cena, Rock versus Hogan, Hogan Andre, which would be Rock versus Reigns. If it's booked correctly, then it would be Reigns versus Parker Bordeaux. What are your thoughts with that?
I like it. I think we're going to get Rock versus Reigns at 39. I think next year it'll be Lesnar versus Reigns. I can see that. But Parker Bordeaux, he's got a great look. He looks like a young Brock Lesnar. Let's see how good this guy is in the ring. Although Paul Heyman's an advocate of him, he's getting really behind him. We really need to see if this guy can be as good as Brock.
Absolutely. I mean, not every Paul Heyman guy's worked. I mean, who remembers Curtis Axel? But at the same time, I hope that it works for Parker Bordeaux. He's certainly got the look. He's certainly got something about him that looks special. I really hope he's the next Brock because we're crying out for someone with that look, and that looks like a megastar. That attraction in itself brings casual fans in because that's something that's missing. And The Rock has got that same attraction. He's so mainstream now with Hollywood and stuff like that. Him versus Reigns, I agree. Arguably, that is the one big match that's left really at this point of the game because, I mean, really, I'd like to see it. And I agree with you. WrestleMania 39 seems like the right place because it's going to be in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think that, definitely.
Absolutely. Another one here from Kobe just says he's picked Shane McMahon that will win. Shane will outsmart Braun Strowman. Maybe Dabba-Kato from Raw Underground maybe debuts. That would be an interesting shout if he was to debut. I'd quite like to see that. You said that you'd like to see Dabba-Kato, wouldn't you, George?
It makes sense. I think they want to try and forget about Raw Underground. They want that to be totally dropped. So, but no, I think Shane can't win this cleanly. If he does beat Braun cleanly, I think it will be a real injustice.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Well, we're down to our last couple of comments then. Martin Carrillo, who would have thought that HBK would retire 2 years, but I think that's meant to be after Ric Flair retiring. Really interesting. Yeah, I've never thought of that, really. It was only 2 years later that Shawn Michaels left the ring. What are your thoughts on that? Does that surprise you?
It's a bit shocking, but then Shawn Michaels was always such a risk taker in the 90s. If you look at his matches with The Undertaker, with that casket match where he got slammed on the casket, this guy was ahead of his time back in the 90s. So taking high bumps and stuff like that. Ladder match with Razor Ramon as well. I think sort of stuff like that. He was always going to retire early because of his high risk style. So it didn't surprise me, but I'd love to see him back in the ring one day. I think if that's possible, even with just a cameo, I would have thought they would have done something like that this year at WrestleMania, just to get sort of a big name, a legend out there with some of the new talent, like a Shawn Michaels, Daniel Bryan match from me, a dream match we're probably never going to see now, which I'd love to have seen.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that against AJ Styles would be amazing as well. Shawn Michaels
Styles,
would be incredible. That would be, but those two matches, I mean, Daniel Bryan makes sense from actually the history those two have would be absolutely incredible. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I'd love to see it. But yeah, like you say, you're very right there with the style. And Shawn always wanted to actually leave on top. So, but yeah. Who would have thought the HBK would have retired to? Oh, no, we've done that one. Sorry about that. It's the same comment that's come in twice. But yeah, we've got one from X. He's going to keep asking questions to keep you guys on stream. Only playing. Good job, lads. Great discussion. No, thank you so much for everyone that's been involved. And thank you for your comments. And WrestleMania, same to you as well there. Before we do close and wrap things up today, I just want to say quickly from my channel, WrestleMania predictions are available for you right now. Of course, NXT Stand and Deliver is this evening. Still time to go and check out those predictions if you haven't seen it already. And I did a couple of retro ones as well. WrestleMania 17, WrestleMania 9. Touched on them briefly on this stream, but definitely go and check them out. Definitely a lot of fun, a bit of creative bookings gone in those as well. So if you've got a chance, I recommend going to check them out. But before we do go, George, please tell everybody about your great channel as well, because it's amazing content going on there.
Thank you, my man. Yeah, all it is, Jonesy Chats Wrestling on YouTube. All we do is stuff like topical videos. Got 2 up at the moment. I've got one where we'd book a main event angle coming out of this WrestleMania 37 triple threat. That's worth a watch. Let me know your thoughts as well. And I've got another one, 5 wrestlers from AEW that are going to go to WWE within the next 5 years. That's an interesting watch as well. But it's been great to be here, Steve. I really appreciate having me on. And yeah, we're going to get you to 1,000 subs. Let's sub to this guy. If you're not subbed already, he's not far off 1,000. Let's get him to 1,000 by WrestleMania. Make the dream happen.
Thank you very much. That really means a lot to me, man. Thank you so much. And it's great to see as well. You've gone over the 100 as well, but that was well ahead of time before WrestleMania. Let's see how quickly we can get to the 150 mark, man, because seriously, great content. Loving the stuff you're putting out on that channel. And always so grateful as well. You have me on for Raw, SmackDown. We talk reviews and stuff like that. Just kick back and talk some good old professional wrestling. It's always great fun. So no, thank you so much for having me on. And everyone, go and subscribe if you haven't already to Jonesy Chats wrestling. We've had a couple of nice comments just before we leave, and Kobe Talk says this was really fun. Keep doing this, really good stream. Hope to do more of these. So yeah, do keep an eye out. I will promote them well in advance. But thank you so much for being involved there, and Marta Career as well. Really fun, good stream. Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. But that's pretty much it from us anyway. Thank you so much, and yeah, spread the word of SCW, spread the word of Jonesy as well, and yeah, I mean, all of you guys as well that's been involved, do some fantastic content as well. Anyone that's watching it's not subscribed to anyone here, go and get involved here. And that even includes our last comment from today, This Week in Metropolis, who's a non-wrestling based, but a fantastic podcast as well. Great show, guys. Thank you. It means a lot, Jay. But all the best, guys. Take care. You've been watching SCW. It's been SCW Live, the WrestleMania Q&A. This has been a blast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care. We'll see you all next time.